I was really hoping words like COVID and pandemic would be long, long gone by now. Sadly, they are still front and center. And there is a devastating consequence the closed borders have inflicted in our field of assisted reproduction. That's on brand new parents who invested in surrogacy around the world and whose newborn babies are heartbreakingly stranded without their parents in countries they aren't even meant to be living in. Here today to discuss this truly heartbreaking situation is my guest, my colleague, my friend, Kristen Montez of the Global Healthcare Law Group. Kristen, thank you so much for carving out time to talk about this tough topic.
Thanks, Alice. I wish we were talking about something a little happier, but it's always good to see you.
I wish we were too, and it's always good to see you. I would love to just start with actually a little bit of background of your services, because Global Healthcare Law Group does have a specific focus area in third-party reproduction, in particular with surrogacy. Can you kind of shed some light on how you usually work with IPs in different countries and IPs even in our own country?
Sure. My background, I started off as a healthcare attorney with a focus on medical tourism, which is my clients arrange for people to receive medical care all over the world. And that's how I moved into surrogacy, because it really is an aspect of medical tourism. It's a global healthcare effort. And my primary focus is representing intended parents all over the world, mainly in China, but also definitely Belgium, Spain, Mexico, Canada, and helping them utilize the United States surrogacy system, specifically California law, because that is the most surrogate friendly, and helping them make their dreams come true to be parents.
And surrogacy is such an incredible gift. And, this is something that we certainly have, as advocates, fought to make sure that everyone in every state in the United States can access surrogacy. Why do you have to cater to these folks that are outside the U.S.?
Well, because many reasons, cost or the legalities in their specific country. For instance, Spain, it's illegal. And some countries don't even recognize gay marriage. And California recognizes gay marriage, obviously. And also, not only is surrogacy legal in California, but it's almost encouraged. The law is so friendly and positive, and it really there's reasonable requirements for people around the world to become parents utilizing California law. I wouldn't even call California law having hurdles. They're just reasonable requirements that everybody has to meet, and this has allowed everybody around the world to take advantage of this.
That's incredible, but we're facing something we've never faced before in our field, which is universal travel bans. So, we're hearing story after story, and now, of course, the media is starting to report on Chinese intending parents aren't being allowed to collect their children. So babies who should have met their parents already have only met their surrogate, and surrogacy has never before been meant for that bonding experience to happen between surrogate and child.
Right. It's actually usually strongly discouraged for the surrogate to care for the baby long term after the birth, whether long term is more than a few days to obviously long term being a few months, and that's what we're running into. A lot of intended parents are even adamant to that they don't even want the surrogate to breastfeed the child because of bonding issues. So what I am seeing is that some surrogates are caring for the child after birth because the parents can't come over. And the reason why I'm seeing that is typically because the surrogate and the intended parents have really established a close, trusting relationship where they want the surrogate. They're requesting that the surrogate care for their baby because the surrogate has obviously been caring for their child this long. And so the surrogate is ready to do that and is happy to do that because she knows that this is kind of just a continuation of her surrogacy journey. So while it is overall, discouraged. There are some cases where it is really working out, where the Chinese, for instance, Chinese intended parents they're able to make sure that their baby is with somebody that they trust and care about. Other Chinese intended parents have contacts, they have friends and family here in the United States. So when we know they can't come here, we already have in place before the birth a power of attorney. We've communicated with the hospital that we have the power of attorney executed, and also the documents, other documents that the hospital requires, so that the power of attorney can come and take the baby and care for the baby until somebody can come from China or travel to China. So
because it's not just the travel issue. Now, if I'm imagining the scenario you just played out, I'm thinking, well, sure, what if the surrogate goes into labor early anyway? You would still need these things in place because, you know, it's not so easy to just get an international flight, right, across the world,
right.
When somebody goes into labor unexpectedly. And so I know a lot of intending parents that try to be here 2 weeks or even a month ahead, just in case that happens, right? But there's bound to be cases where you don't get there in time. So is that planning part probably only covers a few days, I would imagine, but is that a normal part of surrogacy planning if you have the right attorney in place, where you kind of insist that some of these steps are already in place? Or is this something that is only just now being talked about to have it be a regular part of a surrogacy journey?
It's, if you have an attorney who's tech savvy, the attorney can leverage the technology that we now have and make sure that this paperwork is in place if she goes into labor very quickly, or suddenly. So what I've been doing is, not that it makes me tech savvy, but a lot of people don't realize that we can do an online notary for the power of attorney. The Chinese intended parents need to have their signatures notarized on the power of attorney. And so usually it could take weeks to get an appointment at the consulate, the US Embassy in China. But what we can do is an online notary that is valid in the state of Virginia, and get this document notarized. And then the other documents that the hospital requires, get it notarized within 24 hours. And the hospital accepts these. And this is a California hospital. The California hospital accepts the Virginia online notary. And so for me, what I do is I just stay in contact with the intended parents, and obviously we've all kind of, we normally, the journey evolves where everybody's on a group chat with the surrogate, with the intended parents, with the surrogate's attorney,
Right.
with the agency. And so we're all communicating, we all know the status of everything and of her health and of the pregnancy. And so if all of a sudden she's going into labor, you know, I could have 3 hours, I could have 24 hours to get those documents in order, and that's enough time.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I actually was the recipient of that online notary experience recently for some insurance thing that I had to do. It was really easy.
It's amazing. And it's totally valid, obviously.
Right.
You know, it's online, it's a video. It's as if you're in front of the notary.
And you get to talk to somebody. I mean, at the very end, when you upload all your documents, you do all your things, you like get the person, the immediate agent, and they go through the whole thing. And, you know, I was used to doing kind of like the mobile route in this day and age, right? Like the no contact is even better anyway. So that certainly helps. Now, do we have any kind of sense of like how many families this is impacting right now?
All of them.
Right.
At least from China.
Right.
Other countries, though, what I've noticed is they can enter, they've been able, the intended parents have been able to enter indirectly into the United States. For instance, I had a Belgian intended father, and an intended father from Belgium needed to come to San Diego because his baby was being born in San Diego. And interestingly enough, his baby he's from Belgium, and his baby was being carried by a surrogate that resided in Mexico. And when this was all happening, COVID obviously started kind of with the travel ban and everything in March. She went into labor in April, but she was able to walk over, cross the border, because she demonstrated to Customs and Immigration that she's receiving medical care in the United States, and she was. So, because she was to give birth here, and we had a doctor's note from her treating obstetrician in the United States, and we also had her medical chart already started with the delivering hospital, and she brought a copy of that to Customs and Immigration, and she was able to cross over. And then she gave birth here, and a few weeks before she gave birth, the father traveled from Belgium to Cancun, stayed there for 2 weeks to quarantine. Then he flew over to Tijuana, and he was able to come over successfully. He had to actually come back 2 days. He tried to cross. Oh, this is what happened. He tried to cross, and the Customs and Immigration said, you can't bring your mother. Only you can go. And then I wrote a letter, and he tried again the next day, and he and his mother crossed over, and he was able to come and be with his baby.
Please tell me there was a car waiting for that poor woman in labor.
Yeah, well, I misspoke. She wasn't in labor.
Okay, good.
She was crossing over. She crossed over a couple of weeks before.
Got it. Okay. But even a couple weeks before, I mean, I went 41 weeks with my first, and I felt like I could barely walk at that point. I was just so waddling.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is that you are having to jump through some pretty extraordinary hoops. And I'm hearing that to get the babies out, when visa offices, when passport offices were closed, you couldn't get the appropriate documentation to even get the infant out of the country.
We tried. With the Belgian father, for instance. So his baby was born in April, in late April. And he was only here on a travel visa, so he needed to return within 90 days. And the passport office was closed, or not accepting. It wasn't that it's not that it has been closed, but for a while it was saying only life or death emergencies or reasons will we grant a passport. And,
right.
And what we did was we contacted our local state representative, and we had them draft a letter saying, this is life or death. They need to go home. They need to be with their own families. And when I spoke to them, they had low expectations. They set low expectations for us. They said, this has not worked for everybody, but sometimes it works. But they gave us a letter, which was great. It was actually a personalized letter. It wasn't just a template that they were providing to anybody that needed a passport.
Sure.
Who had gone through a surrogacy journey. It was personalized to this specific situation, free of charge. And so we submitted that letter along with a declaration from me explaining, they need to go home. And it didn't work overnight, but within about 3 weeks, the father messages me and says, "We're home." And I said,
"Oh my gosh.
You didn't even tell me you got the passport."
Oh my gosh. That is so funny. Wow. But he was just
the baby.
Right. He was just so happy to get home, probably. He was just thinking, like, I got to get home. That's unbelievable. It looks like we only have a minute left. So, it sounds like you're jumping through additional hurdles. They're worth the hurdles. You have to have the right attorney present and available and on your side to help get through these hurdles during this difficult time, because you know how to navigate all the way from legislature, down to state laws, down to, country laws. You're being a navigator at that point. So I just want to say thank you for doing such a fantastic job on behalf of your intending parents to get, intending parents and babies reunited during this difficult time. And if you have questions about this, you have concerns, because we don't know how long this pandemic is going to last, and it is going to impact potentially your own surrogacy journey, please reach out on the Fertility Answers app. Kristen is available to answer questions. We can also match you directly with her to do an initial consultation, so you can kind of learn about the process itself. But I commend you, and I just want to thank you for working so hard to make sure that the unification is happening.
Yeah, it's
All right.
an amazing journey, and it's an honor to be a part of the process, and to say that I help make babies.
Is incredible. Yeah, it's incredible, especially for an attorney.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, when they say it takes a village in third-party reproduction, it literally takes a village. So
Yeah.
we're here to be helpful, and we're so lucky to have great attorneys on board like Kristen and her law firm. So find us on the Fertility Answers app, and as always, please subscribe, like, share if this is important content to you. Send it to people in email, and we'll see you next time. I'm Alice Creasy, your host and creator of the Fertility Answers platform. Thanks so much.